For the success of any business, it's important to know what our target audiences are saying about our organization. This presentation will explain our perception among those people and audit our current social media practices to identify areas of improvement. The Toronto Humane Society started all the way back in the late 1880s. John J. Kelso, a writer for the World newspaper, wrote an article about preventing animal cruelty in Toronto and inspired donations to treat an old workhorse. There was no GoFundMe page back in that day, so people donated directly to the newspaper for the horse, and it grew to $74, which is about $2,000 today. A year later, Kelso helped to launch the humane movement in Ontario, and the Toronto Humane Society was born. We're going to show you one of the many animals that have been rehomed over the years. This is Max. He's one of the many dogs of the THS has rehomed. Today we offer many services, including animal adoption, animal intake, lost and found, training, consultation, and spay and neutering services, among others. So the purpose of this social media audit is to assess the current reach of our strategy and identify opportunities for improvement to reach and impact even more of our target audience so that in turn we can solicit more donations and improve our operations. Our social media following across all platforms totals approximately 122,000 people. The reason why this matters is because social media has become an incredibly important marketing strategy for businesses, and this is especially true for non-for-profit organizations like THS. The benefits of social media include building awareness, communicating authority, showing authenticity, and encouraging engagement, which are all ways that we can use to translate into donations. Our audience is in Toronto and include both individuals and businesses, people looking for a pet, training services, pet health insurance, spay and neutering services, dog walking services, as well as private donors and volunteers. And our business audience includes advocacy groups and corporate donors. So we garner great earned media. We have a weekly spot on CTV Your Morning every Wednesday, covering topics such as how to adopt a pet. Tens of thousands of people will watch and tune into that program every morning. Blog TO and Classical FM write weekly posts. Narcity and CP24 regularly advocate for the Humane Society and have covered pet celebrities such as Merlin the Mad Ragdoll, who has a following of almost 300,000. And Biff Naked, John Tory, and Steve Paikin have all been outspoken in their support on social media as well. Rounding out, one of our most notable influencers was the Toronto Raptors. We partnered with them for this really neat PSA, which has garnered great attraction and traction on YouTube with more than 20,000 views. Damari Carroll, so he appeared in this ad, and it has been very well received. And we think this is one of the many ways that we can continue to push our messaging forward.
Social sentiment is a way to measure the emotion in social media and other online mentions. As you can see in the sentiment report from Awario, 41% of social media conversation mentioning the Toronto Humane Society is positive. That's the green section of the donut graph. Not surprisingly, this includes comments such as, "Thank you for everything you do," and "excellent ad." They're full of heart emojis and happy exclamations about donating. And of course, there are many, many comments from people who've adopted their pets from the Toronto Humane Society about how adorable their new pet is and how their new fur baby has definitely found their forever home. In addition, the organization has a small but solid handful of brand advocates who promote the organization regularly and enthusiastically. These people are animal lovers, and there's even a Toronto Humane Society volunteer. And some have significant followings, with up to almost 10,000 followers. Going back to the Awario sentiment report, you can see in the line graph on the right that there are some spikes. Those directly line up with the days when the organization and its influencers, such as BlogTO, published posts and articles announcing digital adoptions during this time of physical distancing. There was a surge of conversation on social media on those days, so we can clearly see that social was responsible for all of this free promotion. Now, we have almost the same amount of neutral sentiment as positive. The neutral is represented by the gray section of our donut graph. But when you look closely at the post, it's clear that these aren't coming from the middle of the fence. They're full of support, saying things such as the Toronto Humane Society donates protective equipment to frontline workers, and with no-kill principles, it aspires to be a best-in-class animal shelter, and no cost to you, and the process is incredibly simple. So you can see that most of the so-called neutral sentiment is actually quite positive for the organization and extremely helpful in terms of promotion and brand awareness. Now let's return to our sentiment report for the last time to address the negative sentiment, the red section. That represents about 16% of the conversation out there about the Toronto Humane Society. But again, when you actually look at the post, you see your gifts will not only help us to keep animals safe and cared for, and our work never stops. That's from the Toronto Humane Society itself. And in particular, my dog is hating staying away from everyone. He's going to hate me soon. So although they contain negative words, it's important that we put them in context to see that these comments are not actually negative. They're simply stating the difficult situation and the need for support. However, after quite a lot of digging through Awario, Rival IQ, Twitter, Reddit, etc., we finally found this. Am I the only person that hates the Toronto Humane Society? The staff is super judgmental, discriminatory, annoying, and mismanaged. An actual negative comment about the organization. But then someone outside of the organization, a brand advocate, rushed to defend our nonprofit and responded in a very positive way, explaining the interviews are indeed tough, but that it's in the best interests of the animal. They really want to make sure that adoptions result in loving forever homes. In addition, our advocate even suggested a helpful tip to minimize or even avoid the frustration the next time. So this negative post actually helps the Toronto Humane Society because it offered the opportunity for a consumer to defend us, which is much more effective than defending ourselves. So actually, this experience is worth more than several positive endorsements. In the end, the public may very well decide on their own that the person who posted that negative comment really is the only person who hates the Toronto Humane Society. In terms of competition, the organization points out that animal welfare isn't a competition and strives to work with other charities and organizations. In fact, the Society has formed partnerships and alliances with animal rescue organizations all across Canada and around the world. And there are mentions in social media about the Toronto Humane Society from as far away as Australia, which is excellent for the brand. However, there are many other local nonprofits that are directly competing for donation dollars, not to mention competition around our pet insurance, dog walking, and pet training services. So fortunately, social reporting tools help us measure our reach compared to some of our competition, such as the Ontario SPCA and Toronto Animal Services. In this example from Awario, it shows we have almost twice as much reach as these nonprofits. And looking at the past month and keeping in mind the unusual circumstances of the pandemic, this Awario report clearly illustrates the power of social media and how it can grow fewer than 550 mentions of the Toronto Humane Society into a reach of 17.5 million. It's important to continue to measure our social media and share the insights of our strategy because understanding what it's currently doing for us gives us the opportunity to find and grow our influencers and brand advocates. It also shows us which of our content assets create the most positive interest so we can repurpose them in the most advantageous ways and grow even more brand awareness to increase donations and our services business.
With all social media activities, the Society must ensure that donor dollars continue to be used primarily for the measures that ultimately improve the care and treatment of the animals. Conduct online must remain professional at all times. No vulgarity shall be used in any communication with the public or stakeholders at any time, and content must represent the mission, mandate, and objectives of the Society. When it comes to social media, the Society does a lot of things really well. We've managed to acquire and maintain a local audience. Our content is visually appealing and is cross-promoted among the various platforms. Text is creatively written and in some cases is in the voice or character of the animal. Content is linked to organizational objectives like fundraising, adoptions, or marketing initiatives. And there is also a mix of paid and organic social media. But most importantly, the organization has a designated social media and marketing specialist on hand. These two individuals have become very good at utilizing themes to drive traffic by creating content that matches existing holidays like Easter and using existing as well as new hashtags effectively. With the emergence of COVID-19, many organizations, including the Society, have been faced with many unprecedented challenges. We have had to rely primarily on social media to get our message out regarding the various services while staying front and center among all the noise. We continue to create content that is relevant while linking to COVID-19 messaging. For example, how to social distance with your pet and providing downloadable coloring activities to do at home while you are self-isolating. The Society is also incorporating COVID-19 messaging into text related to our adoptions wherever appropriate. Example, in a recent hashtag THS adoptable animal post, a description of the shelter animal included, "My name is Oscar. I have been practicing social distancing for years and will always choose to stay in over going out." There are many instances where the character of the animal has been described in correlation to the outbreak or related current events. Lastly, the Society also put a call out to our followers via Facebook and Twitter and asked supporters to create masks for our veterinary staff. This would allow us to donate all our medical supplies to the local hospital. The response was well received and only represents a few examples of how the Toronto Humane Society is doing social media well. Although the Toronto Humane Society is doing well overall in regards to its social media efforts, there is always room for improvement. Wherever possible, the organization should consider allocating some more advertising dollars in order to run social media campaigns. We need to attempt to increase its reach in order to solicit funds and adoptions, and we need to look for opportunities to share content with influencers, advocates, and like-minded organizations. We should also expand the Society's social media efforts to include platforms such as TikTok in order to reach a younger audience base. It goes without question, we need to seek out inexpensive professionals or volunteers to assist with photography and videography services. And most importantly, the Society needs to look for opportunities to join forces with like-minded organizations which are competing for donor dollars by embarking on online fundraising campaigns. Not one organization knows what the world will look like post the COVID-19 pandemic, but what is clear is the world will not be the same. Many nonprofits, including the Toronto Humane Society, will face financial hardship, unlike what we have experienced in the past. There is no easy way to say it, but the impact COVID-19 will have on people's checkbooks will no doubt have a significant impact on the Society's operations and therefore the animals we continue to have in our care. So moving forward, our main goal will be to increase our social media profile as it's a cost-effective solution in order to solicit funds, solicit financial support, and generate awareness for the revenue-generating services of the Society. As I mentioned previously, we don't know what the financial implications of COVID-19 will have long-term in Ontario, but we have set some ambitious goals in consultation with staff at the Society so we can continue to maintain our current level of service. We will attempt to solicit a 5% increase in monthly contribution amounts from our supporters by December 2020. We will attempt to solicit one-time donations from new donors by 15% by December 2021, seek out sponsorships and/or corporate donations, and increase participation by 10% by December 2021. This can include sponsoring a cage or naming rights, etc. And lastly, We want to attempt to increase bookings for our veterinary and other services by 15% by the end of December 2021. So how will we achieve these outlined objectives? Well, the Society will increase its awareness by launching TikTok to reach a younger audience base, develop a robust content marketing strategy, expend its marketing initiatives through paid social, and produce YouTube video testimonials. We will also work with bloggers with an established following and enable an online feedback/response mechanism to address some of the negative or neutral comments that are received. We will also attempt to increase financial support by engaging in live streaming activities, podcasts, and videos. We will look to the Society's experts, for an example, to host podcasts or appear in YouTube videos that act as a teaser, which will highlight the types of services offered by the Toronto Humane Society. We could also allow people to view the animals in our care 24/7 without leaving their home through a live feed. They could also be redirected to a donation portal upon exiting. Most importantly, the Society will look at doing extensive online fundraising campaigns that can be promoted through its existing channels. With the support from our various staff and our dedicated supporters, along with a little bit of luck, we will weather this storm, and the Toronto Humane Society will continue to provide exceptional care to the shelter animals across Toronto. Thank you.